Hey guys, what's going on? Hope everybody's having a good day out there today, and welcome back to the familiarity and the harsh lighting here of the tackle room for tonight. I'm just filming it tonight, but for today's video. And today we're going to have a wide-ranging discussion on line size versus your sinker size. This is actually a request I had from a subscriber. I thought it was a really good question. And this is really going to be geared more towards the guys just starting out in fishing, or if you don't have a lot of familiarity with it, but also even if you've been fishing a long time, I've got some tips here that might help you guys out, matching them up and everything like that. So real quick guys, if you guys are interested in any of the sinkers or line that I'm talking about, one of the best ways you can support the channel, you guys know, is to get them through the Baitworks online store or in the store in Springfield. I'll include the link in the description, and again, that's a great way to help out the channel here if you guys want to do that. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about line sinkers. This is sort of going to be a broad topic here. First of all, let's go a little bit on line size. We'll talk a little bit about line characteristics. There's four, but there's three main types of line categories. You've got your fluorocarbon, you've got monofilament, and braided line. Yeah, there is a copolymer lines too out there. They're not as popular, but I use everything I use. You guys know Seagar fishing line. I like the Invisix line of fluorocarbon. The times that I do use monofilament are pretty rare, but basically what we're talking about here is, I use fluorocarbon for probably 90% of my fishing applications. I'll use monofilament line if I'm fishing top waters, because fluorocarbon is not made for top waters. It'll actually sink your top waters down. And especially if you've got like a chugger or something, it'll make it go, the line will sink in the water and make your nose chug down, which, so you don't want to use that. So monofilament for top waters. I also will use monofilament occasionally if I'm fishing a big square bill crankbait, making short casts with it, because I want that stretch on a short cast. And my braided line, if you guys saw the recent braided line video, the only time I use braided line is for fishing like frogs and toads, flipping mats, flipping extremely heavy cover, which is not very much of the time. So like I said, 90% of the time I'm using fluorocarbon. So the basic foundation of, first of all, choosing the correct line size, it has a lot of different factors to do. It has to do with how the line size is going to affect the action of your lure, because some baits are going to be more affected than others by the pound test that you have on them. If you've got baits that move like a crankbait, lipless crankbait, something like that, sometimes the action of those baits can be affected by how large the diameter of the line is. If you're fishing a bait that falls, like a shaky head or a jig or a Texas rig worm, which we're going to talk about the sinkers today, the line size will also affect the rate of fall on that. The heavier the line that you're using, the slower it's going to make that bait fall. And also, since the bait is falling slower with heavier line, if you're using a jig, say with 8-pound test line, the angle that jig falls is completely different than if you're using like 25-pound test line, simply because of the diameter and the sink rate on it. So that's one of the good things with that. Now, when you're choosing your line, here's what you want to do. There's a couple different factors here. Number one, you want to use the most efficient size line that's going to not take away the action of your lure, not going to take away the number of bites that you get, and also you want to be able to efficiently get the fish out of whatever cover. So obviously you don't want to be flipping thick bushes or thick trees with 10-pound test line. You want to be using something heavier. And then again, you don't want to fish a shaky head on 20-pound test line, because you got to be aware of the visibility factor and how that thicker line is going to affect the action of the lure. So there's a lot of different factors to consider with. Now, specifically for slip sinkers, what we're talking about, a lot of this has to do with the depth of water that I'm fishing, because I don't really go by the line size versus what the sinker size is going to do to my fall rate. Say, for example, like here, this is a 3/8 ounce tungsten sinker right here. If I use this particular sinker on 8-pound test line versus 25-pound test line, like we talked about before, you're going to have a different fall rate on there. But that's not my consideration when I'm picking slip sinkers. The slip sinker, in correlation with the line size, has everything to do with two factors. It has to do with the water visibility that I'm fishing, and it has to do with the cover that I'm fishing, as far as how I choose that. So a lot of times, let's just say, for example, if I'm pitching and flipping, I'll use anywhere between a 1/16 of an ounce sinker all the way up to a 1 ounce sinker on 25-pound test line. Everything, I'll use a 1/16, I'll use an 1/8, 3/16, quarter, 5/16, 3/8, 3/4, 1 ounce, all on 25-pound test line, based upon what I'm fishing. Say, for example, if I'm pitching a soft plastic stick bait, Cinkovers, Linky, something like that. If I'm pitching and flipping it, the water, say, really dirty, say I've got 12 inches of visibility, and these fish are really shallow, so I know, say I'm fishing shallow grass, there's some shallow water willows or grass, and I want a real slow fall, I'll still pair that super heavy line up with the light sinker just to get that desired fall. And on the other end of that too is, say, for example, if I'm say I'm fishing some deeper water with that. Say I'm casting a 10-inch plastic worm in 25 foot of water, and the water's pretty clear. At times, I'll go down to like 10 or 12 pound test line with maybe like a 5/16 or a 3/8 ounce sinker just to get the bait down there. I'm not really focused on how the action of the slip sinker or the weight of the slip sinker is going to affect the line size with that. So when you're talking about slip sinker choices, it's not the same as pairing it up with baits that have action like crankbaits and stuff like that. I mean, it's completely different. And like I said, that is all dependent upon, the water clarity and the cover that you're fishing. In general, here's what I found out a little bit. There's a couple different variations here. The dirtier and the warmer the water is, that's the more I'm using the heavier line and the lighter sinkers. Even if the water's dirty, even if the water's warm and dirty, I still like a light sinker. I like that hesitation that the bait's going slow. It gives that fish the time to find it. But if I'm fishing fairly clear water, say for example, I'm fishing some docks that have really clear water on them, maybe 5-6 foot of visibility, and maybe there's some cross beams on the docks, or there's some brush piles, or there's some steel cables or metal stuff like that is pretty gnarly, then I don't have any problem going 25 pound test line with a heavier sinker, simply because I need the efficiency of getting that bait down and getting those fish out of there. Now, I may sacrifice some bites by going with that heavier diameter line, but it's all about maximizing everything. Because what happens is when you're pairing up your slip sinkers on your line, you're going to give something up. It's like if you try to downsize to get better action and less visibility to the fish on the line, you're going to give up a little bit of power on there. And sometimes you need that, sometimes you don't need that. So there's a give and take there. So a lot of it is you just have to let the fish tell you what they want. Sometimes the fish are a little bit more aggressive. For example, if you've got a situation where it's bright and sunny, clear water, that's when you may have to downsize your line simply to get more bites, even though it may cost you fish once you get them around that heavier cover. But if you've got a day that, say, it's windy and rainy and dark out, the light penetration does not allow those fish to see good, and you can get away with heavier stuff. You can get away with 20-25 pound test line on a heavier sinker. So that's just the general rule of thumb, guys. It's like there's no rhyme or reason with it. The main thing that I want to take away for you guys in this video, when you're talking about matching up your fishing line with your slip sinkers, it's all about the combination of everything. It's a combination of being efficient. It's a combination of getting those fish out once they're hooked. It's a combination of actually generating a strike, and it's a combination of allowing your bait to fall at the right speed and to allow your baits to work at the maximum efficiency. So that's a big deal to remember there. So anyway, I hope that helped you guys out. I hope it answered the questions. Man, if you guys got any questions about this video that I can answer, if some stuff was unclear in it, feel free to shoot me a comment. I'd love to answer them there. So thanks again for tuning in. We'll see y'all later.